With July 4th, Independence Day upon us, it's a good time to ask the question, what exactly is freedom? What is independence? What does it mean? When the Founding Fathers declared their independence, the Declaration of Independence, it was very straightforward. They felt that the overbearing impact of the control of King George of Great Britain, the United States was under that sovereign control, and they declared their independence. So is that what freedom means? To not be under the control of someone else. Does it mean to be not in prison? Or is there a deeper meaning? Because you can be not in prison and no shackles and not be enslaved to anyone outside you, but you could be enslaved to your passions, to addictions, to all types of things. Just a little while ago, a fellow who comes from a very wealthy family in the billionaire range told me, I can do anything I like, but I live in a gilded cage. What about emotional freedom, psychological freedom, spiritual freedom? It's important to think about this because this is not just a general hypothetical question, it's about who you are. So please join me in this special July 4th program. What does independence and freedom mean to you? And let us discover, let us explore and discover how we can truly be free to the point that we can spread our wings and be the best we can possibly be to reach the heavens and beyond. Hi, this is Simon Jacobson, and we'll be speaking about what does independence and freedom mean to you. This program is dedicated by Shirley Hirsch in honor of Rabbi Jacobson. Thank you for inspiring us and others. Thank you. Okay, so freedom and independence are big words. We cherish freedom, and we abhor anything that is called slavery. It hasn't always been that way. Throughout history, before the United States was the first institutionalized free country, people were controlled by monarchs, by despots, by fascists, by totalitarians. Sometimes we were lucky and they were benevolent, but they could control everything about you, your property, your life. I mean, things that you simply did not have the right to do anything without their permission. Or even if you got away with doing something, but they could always impose themselves upon you. That changed in the last few centuries. But the challenge of freedom still remains with us. Many, many people will say, yes, I'm free to move about. I'm free to make decisions what store to go to. I can travel freely. I'm not in a physical prison, but I'm in a psychological prison. Fear, insecurity, pains, losses, traumas that keep me trapped. So now is a good time, perfect time, to explore this. And it's not just a hypothetical, it's actually coming to understand who we are. So on a very rudimentary and a very ostensible level, you'd say freedom means no one is holding you down. I can speak to you freely. No one's telling me what to say. I can walk out of this room whenever I like. I can travel. I can make decisions for myself and my family. That we can all understand. But as I said, is that all there is? I know people who have no commitments. No one has expectations of them. And they feel very free, but they're not free at all. They're running for their lives. They're driven by tremendous fear. And they're afraid to commit. Commitment for them is like a trap. Now, commitment to the wrong things, of course, is a trap. But commitment to the right things, would you call that slavery? Would you call that bondage? When you love someone dearly and you're committed to them, not because you have to, because you want to. Not because you're getting something for it, because it's just simply the natural inclination to protect, to watch, to care for someone you love. Would you say that's less free or more free? So some people would say marriage, relationships actually is like a ball and chain. I've heard this from many people. The single life, you can do what you want. But look around. Are single people happier? They may be able to party more, and they may be able to get away with instant gratification, but everything will come back to roost, to haunt you. Because freedom is not just about freedom of movement, it's not just about freedom of choices, it's far deeper than that. So I will submit to you, the true translation of freedom is not about what it looks like to the naked eye. The true translation of freedom and independence is that what you do is not imposed upon you by any other force. Not fear, or not an outside individual that you need to satisfy their expectations or demands. That's true freedom. And let me explain. No, we have the concept of a free spirit. Some people just have a free spirit. You can't keep them down. Sort of that need to always break out of boundaries, out of the box. Nonconformists. Now, not all are the same. A free spirit can be running from very negative things. There are people who've achieved great things in life, but it came from a lot of pain in their lives. The pain compelled them and propelled them to places outside of their comfort zone. And they did things that regular people wouldn't do. But is that a free spirit, or is that someone who is being prodded? The catalyst is something called pain that's causing. I'm not judging that person. I'm not saying there's something wrong with it. But what happens if that person had lived in a comfort zone? Would they never have innovated? That's possible. There are many people say, had I not gone through the pains of my life, I probably would not have innovated certain things. So when you think about it, freedom is really the freedom to be yourself. But that's a very challenging statement, because who are you? Many of us think we are a product of, whether we acknowledge it or not, of our parents. Remember, in our early impressionable years, our parents had expectations of us. And the parents were very suffocating and very imposing on us, and especially if they were unhealthy. They could have planted in our minds that the only way you will be appreciated, the only way you'll be valued is if you do what I tell you to do. So you create an image in yourself, in your own mind. For me to be me, I have to make them happy. Which really means the true you gets buried under the surface, and you may never have even discovered yourself. You've become a product, sometimes even a victim of circumstances, of other people's attitudes, expectations, demands. And the same thing that happens in school. And peer pressure, and then social pressure. All these forces add up and contribute to shaping you in its image. And you could live your life, a whole life, and never know who I am. What am I independent of all of that? That's why it's so critical when we read about Abraham, the Bible. The first command to Abraham is, leave your homeland. Leave your land. Leave your birthplace. Leave your parents' home. 3 different expressions to tell Abraham, if you want to find yourself, you need to get beyond the subjective forces that have shaped you, which includes starting with your own natural subjectivity. We all have internal biases and prejudices. Secondly, parental influences. And third, social influences. That doesn't mean that those influences are all bad, but you need to discover them for yourself. So good parents give you the best they have, but at some point, when you start thinking for yourself, you want to make sure you're not just a clone, you're not just following out of comfort or out of fear of punishment or fear of standing out, that you are yourself. I always share the story when my son came home from school. He was a little boy, maybe 6, 7 years old. He was very excited. What are you so excited about? I asked him. He said, I heard today a really nice line. You were born an original, don't become a copy. So as a father, remained etched in my memory. Years later, my son is now a father of his own. I asked him recently, I said, tell me, do you remember that when you came home? He didn't even remember. For me, it was exciting, my son, but he didn't remember. I reminded him, you were born an original, don't become a copy. I said to him, so what happened with you? Are you an original or a copy? Now, no pun intended, he's a copywriter. He is. He's a creative director, and he writes copy, and he expresses, creates brands, knows how to take an invisible vision and turn it into a tangible message, clear message. So his response to me was, I'm an original copy, whatever that means, cryptic. So yes, you were born an original, you're not a copy. But we become a copy because we copy others. It's easier, more predictable, less risky. The fear of failure is a big factor. And in general, why go on a limb? Why rock the boat, so to speak? So that's called freedom. You could have free speech, you could have freedom of expression and freedom of assembly and freedom of press, but still not be free at all. Today, look at the media. Thomas Jefferson famously said that if I had to choose between free speech and free press, I would choose free press, because without free press, there won't be free speech. In other words, the press will hold everyone accountable. I beg to differ today. I wish that was the case. Today, the press is as biased, if not more biased and prejudiced than the regular person in the street. And they're actually helping create prejudices. Is it because media has become entertainment and because they're competing with the lowest common denominator? So the press, I wish I could say, I come from a world of journalism, my father was a journalist, that journalism is actually helping us think freely. I see the opposite. They're helping brainwash us and polarize us. I'm not saying everyone, I'm not saying every journalist, but a lot of it. So that we don't even have a free press checking on the free speech that people are saying. So that tells us that freedom is a lot more than just having a free media, meaning a press that is not answerable to the government or to any individual. Because the people running the media are also human beings with their own inherent biases and prejudices. So freedom has to come from something that's a lot deeper and a lot more about your sense of true self. So what does happen? What would happen if you were able to strip away all influences? I know it's a hypothetical, but let's just go on an imaginary exercise, which is strip away the influences of your parents, influences of society, even your own subjectivity, if it's at all possible. What would you be left with? Most of us have no clue, because we've been so shaped by these. And not all those, as I said, those shapes are bad, but you've never necessarily put it under the microscope. Have you ever challenged your preconceived notions, your axioms? It's a very healthy thing to do. I'm not saying you have to challenge it all the time, but from time to time, ask, why do I believe this and this about that and that? Oh, because my father used to spout about it every night and he felt that way? Or I read it in a newspaper that I thought I could trust? I mean, look at today, the narratives out there about things, literally opposite narratives, that they both can be right. Where someone accuses one person of being a perpetrator and they accuse them that you're the perpetrator. But this is all the bad news. The good news is we have recourse. And this is also critical and connected to July 4th. One of the statements in the Declaration of Independence that touches me deeply is where the Founding Fathers write, we find these truths to be self-evident. All men are created equal. I probably would edit that to all people so it shouldn't be misunderstood. Created equal and endowed by the Creator with inalienable rights and the freedoms that the Declaration spells out, and then later in the Bill of Rights and so on. What is the key point? That you and I and every person on earth have something equal. None of us have power and control over it, because only one Creator and created us all in the divine image. And as such, we're all equal. We're different, but equal. And equally valuable, and equally indispensable and necessary. That is the foundation of all of life. Because if you think you're negligible, or optional, or arbitrary, then your decisions are also going to be arbitrary and optional. So the idea that you have absolute value, and you're here on a mission that you and only you can fulfill, is an unbelievable statement in building confidence. And no one can take it from you, because no one gave it to you. Everything we spoke about before, the influences of our own subjectivity and biases and prejudices, parental influences and attitudes, social influences, peer pressure, and so on, is all things that we assimilate, we absorb, and perhaps retain, but it's not who we are. Who you are is that pure soul that precedes your parents and precedes your educators and precedes society and precedes even your subjective self, the soul that God put you in this world and said you have a mission. Now, yes, I'm putting you into a body, into a challenging situations, and you're going to meet people who are going to try to influence you and try to control you. But you can access your soul, you will be in control. So what is true independence and freedom? Accessing your inner soul, which is yours, and the only thing that is yours. Everything else has been shaped by other forces. So the soul has not been. The way you react to your soul could be. That's your attitude. But the very soul is like the engine within you. That's your DNA. Now, does the DNA have impacted by parents? Just like genetics? Yes. But not the very soul itself. It's the soul's personality, its characteristics. But the value of the soul, or as I like to put it in Toward a Meaningful Life, birth is God saying you matter. Your inherent and absolute value. That, connect to that, and nothing can enslave you. That's why you'll find people who were in prison for many years and were, yes, subjugated to others, but there's something that remained free inside them. You cannot enslave their spirit. I'm not suggesting it's a good situation. We want to be both free physically and spiritually. But there are other people who are not in prison at all, have all the comforts of life, can buy whatever they wish, all the freedoms that we would consider, they literally can do whatever they want. But they're completely lost. They have no idea where they're going. They have no idea what matters. They don't have idea that they're valuable. So there you have it. It's like, talk about frequent flyer miles. There are people who have billions of frequent flyer miles, billions, millions, but their soul has not moved an inch. There are people who have never flown anywhere, but I've seen such individuals sitting on a Shabbat during prayer, under a prayer shawl, a talit, and praying for 6-7 hours without moving. Now, if you came over there, you say, well, the person's not moving, that means someone must be holding them down. No, he wants to be there. That's the place he wants to be. To use an expression from one of the great Hasidic masters, a limitation, something that is like that limits you, is only a limitation if it's coming from outside of you, not if it's willing. If I want to do something right now and stay here and read a book for the next 6 hours, and no one is imposing upon me, that's freedom. The fact that I run around and can't sit in one place, that's not necessarily freedom. That could be I'm running from fear, or I don't have the patience, I don't have the discipline. So it's not about how many options you have. It's that the options you choose is a reflection of your inner will. But that becomes a challenge. How do I decide what's my will? How do I know this is not my mother speaking or my father speaking, as many of us come to recognize at some point in our lives? I'm never going to be like him. I'm never going to be like her. And you end up being exactly like that or a similar replica. That's why you need to study about your soul. You need to learn what is your soul like. Every soul has its unique ingredients, its unique makeup, its unique composition. All souls have 10 faculties, as the Kabbalists and the Hasidic masters explain. 10 conscious faculties, I should add. 3 cognitive ones and 7 emotional ones. Or sometimes broken down, 3 cognitive, 3 emotional, and 4 behavioral ones. And we have different forms of expression, thought, speech, and action. But what type of cognitive processing? Some of us are very intuitive. Some of us are very creative. Some of us are very much, we can develop and flesh out an idea. Others are very good at conceiving of an idea. Same thing emotionally. Some people are much more chesed people. If you're familiar with my book on the counting of the Omer, I break down the spiritual DNA of the emotions. The people who are chesed, they're more giving. Others are more disciplinarian. There's compassion. There's endurance, ambition. And then there's yielding and humility. And then there's bonding. And finally, there's dignity. Now is not the place to go into each one of them, but each of us is stronger in one area than another. So you have to define your inner soul personality. Basically, you stop living from the outside in, which means others and life experiences are shaping you. You're living from the inside out. Your soul is defining who you are. Who you are is dictating what you do. Not what you do dictates who you are. So it's a radical shift. And it's perfectly fine that July 4th should be more than just a day of balloons and vacation and sales and all other things and fireworks that people do. That should actually be a day of true introspection. Because the founding fathers, due to pressure, came to discover that we can never really flourish if we're going to be under the control of another human being. Because we're all created equal. King George as well. Which was a big thing, very unique. It was unprecedented, actually, because monarchs ruled. They were closer to God than the rest of us. There were monarchs, many tyrants. Suddenly we discover, no, all people are created by God equally. That doesn't mean there can't be leaders. George Washington was a leader, but they don't have absolute authority. There's only one that has absolute authority. We only answer to one creator, the creator that endowed us all with a divine image and the rights that we have. If you think about it, it's absolutely revolutionary. So I know it was a revolutionary war, but I'm talking about more of just a revolutionary ideology. But here's, my friends, the news. It didn't begin with July 4th. It began in an institutionalized, formal way in this country around 248 years ago. In the 2026 will be 250 years, from 1776. But the Jewish belief, the Torah, speaks about the creation of every human being in the divine image and all the implications of that. Thousands of years earlier. So think about it. It took thousands of years for the human race to embrace this formally. There was, of course, individuals throughout time that believed in this, but it did not become a formal system. And I submit that the success of this country, with all its flaws, and has plenty and many things to correct, lies in these statements. And if we can realign and revisit and reclaim our legacy, our mandate, that began on July 4th, formally, and really understand what true freedom and independence is, we would have a very different country. We would not have the polarization, the cancellation, the absolute hatred and divisiveness. People don't talk to each other, don't allow another person to present an idea that's not that idea that they like. Discrimination, all selective, wherever you feel you think you're right. With the humility that's necessary to understand we are all created equal. Yes, each one of you, even someone I absolutely abhor, even someone that completely I disagree with, God put them in this world. And I'm not here to control them. If I want to inspire them, educate them, by all means. This is what I do. I produce videos, write articles, but all in a kind and inspiring way, as we would do with friends. Now, are there people that are my enemies? I'm sure there are. There are anti-Semites. There are others who are racists and other forms of discrimination, but it's their problem, not mine. One thing I always learned and know, and I say this very proudly as a Jew, we were never defined by other people. That's the key. Remember, freedom, no one defines who you are. You never allow, not your enemies and not your friends. So what did the Jewish people do after the Holocaust, as angry as they were, and they wanted vengeance? They didn't go ahead and rape German women. They didn't blow up cafes. They built. They built the land. They built families. They rebuilt as hard as it was. Because our anger, our rage is channeled into something greater. It's not just fighting against something. We will not be defined by our enemies. Not in the positive way and not in the negative way. We're not going to become like them. They tell a story that there was a Nazi who was about to kill a Jew. And the Jew asked if he can say his final prayers. And the Nazi allowed him to do so. After a minute, the Nazi says, "What are you saying?" He says, "I'm thanking God." And the Nazi became infuriated. He said, "You're thanking God? For what? You dirty Jew. You're at my mercy. Where's your God?" And the Jew quietly responded, I'm thanking God that he didn't create me like you. There's something about the dignity of a human being, that we control our destiny, not our captors, not those that want to subjugate us. Even if they do, they don't define us. That's why Mordechai would not bow to Haman. And that's why the Jewish people did not bow to Pharaoh, or later to the Assyrians, or to the Babylonians, or to the Greeks, or to the Persians, or to the Romans, and so on. Your soul is your divine connection. That's the only thing you connect with. That defines you. And that definition is not one you don't want to embrace, because that definition really opens up all the horizons. So you want to be free, that's what you need to access. That's how you soar. That's how you fly. That's how you spread your wings. I don't know if there's a more empowering message in general, but especially on July 4th. Be yourself. Oliver Wendell Holmes, I quote him often in his poem, it's horrible poem, if you wish, and one of the most painful statements, called The Voiceless, where he begins, alas, to those that die with their song still inside them. Think how devastating that is. You live your whole life and you die with your song still inside you. You have a song inside you, many songs, and they're yours, they're not mine, they're not someone else's. And not only you, but the world needs you to sing your song. But for that you need courage, and for that you need clarity, and for that you need friends that will support you. Not people who you call them up with something enthusiastic and they throw cold water and they say, yeah, stop with your dreams. Go back to where you were. But people who encourage us, who believe in us. And that's why we are here, to help each other in that regard. So my dear friends, think about yourself. Who are you, independent of other forces? True independent. And if there are things you're addicted to and things that you're trapped in, now is the time. It's very hard to drop something that you're enslaved to. You have to find an alternative. The alternative is not another form of slavery. You don't replace one addiction with another. It's to find your spirit. What is your mission, your calling? And be passionate about that. And that will preempt the vacuum that's created when we don't have that answer. I'm not saying it's easy. That's why we need each other. But this is the message. Ask yourself, what does independence and freedom mean to you? This has been Simon Jacobson, Meaningful Life Center. MeaningfulLife.com is our website. Please subscribe to our offerings, to our growing YouTube channel. And I'd love to hear your questions and your thoughts and your comments. And please share. Please share with everyone around. And let's all try to discover that unique song so we can then play the symphony, the cosmic symphony that needs each one of us. Because we're all so indispensable in the bigger picture. We need each other and everyone needs us. Be blessed and be well, and happy holiday, and happy summer. And we're here on an ongoing basis. As I said, you could check out our calendar at MeaningfulLife.com. Be blessed. Bye-bye.
This program is brought to you by the Meaningful Life Center. Please help us continue our programs. Make even a small contribution at MeaningfulLife.com/donate.